Explain to our listeners what Japanese internment art is.
All right. When Pearl Harbor happens, Japanese Americans are instantly dangerous to America, according to the federal government. And so President Roosevelt signs Executive Order 9066, which says all persons of Japanese descent shall be removed from the West Coast. So almost overnight, it's a remarkable logistical feat, if nothing else. About 120,000 Americans of Japanese descent were removed to 10 internment camps in America. The most far east ones are 2 in Arkansas, in South Arkansas, in 2 little towns called Rower and Jerome. So internment camp art is the art that's produced by inmates, if you will, of these internment camps. And it is kind of fascinating, really, that one of the first things they did when they got to these camps was to think about the arts and to think about the power of the arts, whether it was in garden design or, they had to build furniture. They had to just do all kinds of stuff to just make life somewhat bearable. And they spent a lot of time making art. It's pretty fascinating. So in Arkansas, especially at the Rower camp, there were 2 things that were happening simultaneously. One is there was a Caucasian teacher who was the art teacher there, Miss Jameson, and she really worked with her students and really used the arts to somehow help these poor individuals under these terrible circumstances. She saved this art and she gave it to her friend Rosalie Gould, who was in the 1980s the mayor of McGee, Arkansas. And Mrs. Gould saved this art all of these years.
Are they paintings?
Paintings, all kinds of things.
Craft, just arts and crafts of all kinds.
Mostly painting, though, mostly fine art.
With like oils?
Yeah, well, there's
or acrylics?
That's the other issue. There's a lot of sort of scrounging that went on. There weren't a lot of materials to make this art. So there's some paintings that were done on like the end bolts of like denim fabric and things like that, that somebody must have donated. So this art has been given to the Butler Center in Little Rock, and people can see a lot of it today. It's often on display down there, and it really constitutes one of the largest collections of internment art anywhere.
In America.
Anywhere, yeah. The other thing that was going on in Rower is that there was a famous California artist by the name of Henry Sugimoto who was in Rower, and he started making art that I would call evidentiary art. I borrowed that term from the study of Holocaust art, which has some interesting parallels. Again, this idea of making art under terrible circumstances, and somehow trying to create art that sort of documents things that happened. I saw this. I was present. This really happened.
It's probably a way for them to process it.
Exactly. And also, though, I think to kind of save this history so that people would know that these things really did take place. So Henry Sugimoto's art is really powerful stuff. Most of it's in California in the National Japanese American Museum there. But one big painting is at Hendrix College that Sugimoto did. And this is also an interesting story. One of the post office mural artists, Louis Friend, who actually started the art department at Hendrix, I think in 1938, found out that Henry Sugimoto was down in Rower, Arkansas, and somehow made it possible for him to get out of the camps, to come up to Conway, and to have an exhibition of his art at Hendrix College.
And what year was this?
This would have been 44, I think, 1943, 44, somewhere in that time period.
That's just an amazing part of history that you can round all those
It is
people
amazing.
up.
And, this was really kind of a secret. I don't think people really knew this was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And, why did they pick the most remote places in America to put them if they really weren't trying to keep it as a secret? And I can't really prove it, but I have the feeling that exhibition in Conway of this evidentiary art that Sugimoto was creating was really one of the first times that Americans actually got a glimpse of what was going on behind barbed wire. It's an extraordinary thing.
How long did they have to stay in those internment camps?
3 years.
And then they'd lost their homes by the time they got out.
They'd lost everything.
Mm-hmm.
And they lost their dignity. They lost everything. And they were still the enemy. Where were they going to go after it was over? It was difficult to go back to California because there were still a lot of bad feelings. And, one of the things that I think historians have sort of shown is that it was sort of an opportunity to do kind of a land grab. There were lots of places in California that the Japanese Americans had farmed successfully and really sort of tamed the land.
Established themselves.
And this was sort of a great opportunity to snatch it back. And so it's really one of the great tragedies, I think, in American history. The wall of shame, as I call it. I mean, it's really a really remarkable thing.
If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out the full interview on the right side of the screen. Want to see more of Kerry's interviews? Subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay up to date with all of her latest shows. And as always, thank you for watching.